Hello, chess friends and chess aficionados. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I like to introduce you to this course and tell you a little bit what it is all about. So let's see, and I hope you'll get interested. Thanks for watching. So before I go through some explanatory slides, please let me emphasize that I am not native tongue English, so if there is something wrong in grammar or vocabulary, take my excuses in advance. Endgame technique, learning chess backwards from the endgame towards the opening. I really thought about a long time how to call it. Is it an endgame technique course or is it learning chess? In fact, it is both, because if you really want to learn chess, you have to do it backwards. So let us see what is the target group of this video series. For sure, all beginners who have an interest in the mathematics, which means I try to give general rules and some more or less mathematical aspects of the chessboard to you, so you can improve your play. And for sure, adults are welcome to explore chess anew with this course. By strength, I think players up to an elo of 1400s will somehow profit from this video. 1400 above, maybe not that much, but you're welcome to join us. And for sure, everybody who likes to join us should please contribute to this course. There are only two prerequisites. The one is that you should know how the pieces can move in general, and you really should have the resilience to work on small bits and pieces, because we will do a lot of exercises which might be boring, but I want to introduce you step by step to a certain idea, technique, and so on in chess. So let's see the educational objective. As I said, a little bit of mathematics, so learning the geometry of the chessboard. It's quite interesting what can happen on a chessboard and not. You should develop general rules by the various exercises we do, and for sure you should understand important words or phrases. For example, key fields. What are key fields? Key success? Most probably. And you should then improve also your pattern recognition by going through this course. Because since we only have the relevant pieces on the board, you can store just the relevant pattern in your mind and recall it when you're playing over the board. As a matter of fact, by knowing the end game, you can improve the quality of your decisions in the opening as well as in the middle game. And you will see later on what does it mean in detail. So, already mentioned about the methods. Well, we will start with an almost empty board, and we will fill it systematically with pieces. We will solve structured exercises so that we then can derive general rules from it. So my recommendation is that you use a real chessboard and maybe a tablet computer to watch this video, And you should also use the breaks offered. I will indicate them by a pause sign, so you can try to solve exercises on your own. And please do not use the engine. The engine will never tell you about the idea, the strategic plan, and so on. The engine just crunches a number of positions, and that the number of positions an engine can evaluate is extremely bigger than the number we can as humans, but it doesn't make sense. The engine doesn't tell us anything, so please don't use the engine. Let's have us a look about the complexity of the game of chess. If we only have got two pieces on the board, it's quite simple. It can only be king and king, so that's the deadest draw ever. But can we learn something from this? Yes, we can. So, but complexity. Now we take a third piece on the board. And the third piece on the board can be a pawn, a rook, a queen, a knight, and a bishop. So, five possibilities. And if we consider a black bishop, black knight, black queen, and so on, is different to a white pawn, rook, queen, and so on. So we have got 10 possibilities. For sure, and that is one aspect of symmetry of the chessboard. Of course, it is the same. If we are talking about a white king and white pawn ending, or with a black king, or if we are talking about a black king and a black pawn against the white king. But anyhow, theoretically 10 different variations. Now we take a fourth piece on the board, for which we have a lot of more variations. So just the first five we know, which is king, king, and pawn. But the fourth piece can be a pawn, a rook, a queen, a knight, and a bishop. And additionally, this combination of pawn and bishop can be a white pawn and a black bishop, or a black pawn and a white bishop. And the same for the knight. So white pawn, black knight, or black pawn, white knight, and so on. So taking it all together, we can say that, excuse me, if we have three pieces on the board, we have 10 possibilities about a set of pieces on the board. But with the fourth piece, we have already 25 theoretically possible piece sets. And talking about positions, with three pieces, you can create roughly about 338, thousand starting positions. How does it come? Well, the first king has got 64 fields to be placed on. The second king, roughly 62, because he has to consider a space between him and the other king. And then we have got 62 fields for the third piece. If we additionally consider the kind of piece, we have got 1,200,000 possible starting positions. So the complexity is quite high. To show you the complexity on the chessboard, let's change to the chessboard and learn there about the complexity. So what is it about the complexity on the chessboard? So let's have a look. As we all know, white to start can start with a pawn to a3 or can start with pawn to a4. White can also start with b3 pawn or pawn to b4. So already four possibilities, and so on for all the pawns, which are 16 in total. And additionally, white can choose about using the knight going to f3 or to h3, or the queen's knight to c3 or a3, which totals to 20 possibilities. But from these 20 possibilities, white chooses only a few. For example, pawn to e4, and it is just one from 20. And you see with highlighted in red, there are 7 fields which are usually occupied by a piece with the first move. So pawn g3, knight f3, maybe not usual. Um, Pawn to f3, pawn to d4, and so on. So out of 20 possibilities, white chooses only 9. The 7 and f3 and c3 can be occupied by two pieces. Black, on the other hand side, can choose the same. So he is not choosing a5 as a first move. He usually chooses one of the yellow highlighted fields for a piece in the first move. Why does the player do so? Well, you have learned from the opening or about the opening, you should develop your pieces, you should occupy the center, and later on you should bring your king to safety. So, due to the rules you have learned, you choose only out of 9 possibilities and not out of 20 possibilities. So, for a regular chess opening, we are talking about 9 multiplied by 9, so 81 possibilities instead of 20 times 20 possibilities, which are 400. And how does the situation look like in the endgame? Let's take this typical endgame. So white to move, you see the white move indicator here. White to move must decide which move to do. Well, obviously, white can choose for his king out of these 8 fields. Additionally, he can choose going with a pawn to e3 or even e4, which make 10 possibilities. Black can choose only out of 8 possibilities because he has only got the king. So we are talking about 10 times 8 possibilities for the first move on both sides, which is 80, but is this 80 more complex, same complexity, or lower complexity than in the opening? Well, in fact, it is more complex. Why? Because in this specific ending, one move or some moves go for the win, but others just for a draw. To show you this, let's see how can white win. White is going with its king to e5 to the opposition of the black king. So the black king just retreats and white king moves on, again with the opposition. Black king to f8. Now pawn to e3. Black can do nothing. He cannot achieve, or he cannot go for the pawn. He has to wait. So king g8, pawn e4, king f8, just being somewhere around. And now king d7. So you can see that the white king blocks these fields for the black king and now is ready to promote his pawn. So if the black king tries to catch the pawn and goes f7, white can simply go e5 and black cannot go to f6 because this field is already occupied by the pawn or is controlled by the pawn. So he retreats, pawn e6, king g7, now he is running away and the pawn promotes to a queen, and obviously this game is won for white. So with the first move, king to e5, white can manage to win. But maybe you have considered to go e4 in the first move. Well, that's only a draw. King goes to e8, king d5. Now the black king reaches the opposition. White king tries to go out of the opposition, but the black king simply follows. And if white tries to promote his pawn, well, the black king just waits a bit, because the white king must go with the pawn to help him promoting. And now the black king gets the opposition. White gives a check. King back to e8, and now you see, and this is already marked, the white king cannot go to the red colored fields because then the pawn is just uh, caught by caught by the black king. And if white goes to e6, then black has no way to move, so it's a stalemate and a draw. So going back to the initial position, we have 80 possibilities for the first moves, but only a few lead to a win. And to find the rules and the patterns and what to see on the board to really get the correct move, this is what we do in this course. So this is talking about general rules or logics and mathematics, um, just to be able to reduce calculation, because if you calculate, you can calculate wrongly, but usually people do not have that much time left on the clock in the end game. So a general rule saying go with your king to the opposition of the black king will definitely be a good try. Then you can just use these rules. We'll briefly check them over the board and then make your win. So the endgame is in fact more complex than the opening, because for the opening we already have these rules, as already said, but for the endgame we usually do not have. So we try to develop these rules and logics and just the, let's say, the ability to have a good look to the board. So I hope I was able to make you a little bit curious about what will happen in this course, and was maybe also able to awaken your interest in playing the end game rather than the opening. And would really appreciate if you follow this chess course with the next episodes to come out shortly. If you have got some proposals for the content of this series, um, please use the comment section in this video. You can also recommend specific analysis of endgames just by, for example, dropping a fen string, which is a position in computer format, to the comment sections, and I will see to implement these in a later episode. And if you have enjoyed these videos, please do not forget to give it a like. I much appreciate this, as well as if you subscribe to my channel, respectively subscribe to the playlist that is, let's say, the earnings a producer of such a course can have. Thanks a lot. See you soon. Bye bye.